Happy Cinco de Mayo. I'd like to call the May 5th, 2015 City Council meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Deckent,
Here.
Inskeep,
Here.
Dave Line.
Here.
Soldner. Here. Pyros de Carvalho.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This morning's prayer will be given by Daryl Peterson of Grace Christian Church. Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly and most gracious Father, it's an honor to come before you this morning to present the city, to present the people within the city, and Father, all of the leadership. And Father, we just thank you for this council. We pray blessings over it. And Father, we just ask you to give them wisdom and understanding to know how to make the right decisions, right choices. And Father, we just thank you for that. We thank you for John and for his leadership. We thank you, Father, for each and every person underneath him. And Father, we just know it takes everybody doing their part to make this city to become what it should be. And I thank you for that today. I thank you for this meeting that, Father, we just pray blessings over it. We thank you, Father, for that. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Amen. Next item, please.
Item 4, proclamations.
We have several proclamations this morning, and I think I'll start with the Bike Month and Bike to Work Day. If Terry Bisbee will join me at the podium. Good morning. Whereas the bicycle is a viable and environmentally sound form of transportation and an excellent form of recreation, and whereas many residents of Hutchinson will experience the joys of bicycling during the month of May through group rides, commuting events, or just getting out and going for a ride, and whereas Hutchinson's road and trail system creates a vibrant, physically active community, providing economic and health benefits to citizens of Hutchinson, and whereas these bicycling activities and road and trail improvements have great potential to positively impact Hutchinson's economy and tourism industry and to stimulate economic development by making the city attractive to businesses and citizens who enjoy the outdoors and healthy lifestyles, and whereas creating bicycle-friendly communities has been shown to improve citizens' health, well-being, and quality of life, to boost community spirit, to improve traffic safety, and to reduce pollution and congestion, and whereas the Vitality Team, Heal Reno County, the Chamber of Commerce, the Hutchinson Community Foundation, the Reno County Health Department, the Hutchinson Recreation Commission, Harley's Bicycles, and other companies and civic groups throughout Hutchinson will be promoting bicycling as a leisurely activity as well as an environmentally friendly alternative to the automobile during the month of May 2015. Now therefore, I, Jade Pyros de Carvalho, Mayor of the City of Hutchinson, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2015 as Bike Month and Friday, May 15th, 2015 as Bike to Work Day, and encourage all who support bicycling to participate in the events planned, and urge all road users to share the road safely with bicyclists. So I expect to see everybody riding their bike to work on the 15th. Do you want to say a few words, sir?
Yes. Good morning, I'm Terry Bisbee. I'm happy to accept this proclamation on behalf of the Vitality Team this morning. In case you do not know about the Vitality Team, it's a group of volunteer citizens who promote healthy living activities in our city. We encourage other citizens to get outside and enjoy our city by bike or by foot. And our goals include creating bike boulevards, bike lanes, expanding our trail system, and creating safe crossings for our busy streets. We also voice support for city projects that either incorporate or provide opportunities to expand and improve our trail system and improve the walkability of our city. We are currently under the umbrella of Hutchinson Recreation. During Bike Month, we are involved with our Hutch Rec partners in several activities. This past Sunday, we had the Sand Plum Classic. Over 200 cyclists took part in rides at distances of 13, 28, or 53 miles. This Saturday, you are invited to join us for our second Saturday cycles. Once a month, we take a leisurely ride to one of the nearby communities in search of the best cinnamon rolls in Reno County. Tomorrow at 1:30, there's the dedication of the new Plum Creek Elementary School trail extension. On May 9th, there is something called the Pedal and Pray on Jim Martinez Trail. Also on May 9th, there is a family biking scavenger hunt in Cary Park. As mentioned previously, on May 15th, it's Bike to Work Day. There will be different stations around town where you can stop on your way to work and have some orange juice and coffee and snacks, and then continue on to work. And on May 23rd and 24th, we will be having the Salt City Criterium that brings competitive bike racing to the streets of Hutchinson for the first time ever. This will be downtown on Saturday and at the State Fairgrounds on Sunday. Thank you very much. I hope you all get out and join us in enjoying the streets and trails in Hutchinson.
Thank you, Terry. I've made that a trek to Pleasant View that you're making on Saturday. It's a lot better on the way there than the way back. Could I have Leanne Cox, Brad Evanson, Holly Leiker, and Kara Higgins join me for a proclamation about Kyle Petty Charity Ride Day? Good morning. Whereas, May 2nd to May 8th, 2015, more than 200 motorcyclists led by former NASCAR driver Kyle Petty will travel from Santa Cruz, California to Branson, Missouri in the Kyle Petty Charity Ride Across America. And whereas the Kyle Petty Charity Ride Across America, now in its 21st year, is an event that raises funds for Victory Junction, a camp that enriches the lives of children with chronic or life-threatening illnesses by creating camping experiences that are memorable, fun, empowering, physically safe, and medically sound. And whereas, since its inception in 2004 in memory of Petty's late son Adam, Victory Junction has been the ride's primary beneficiary, with more than 7,800 children being able to attend Victory Junction at no cost to their families. And whereas, since 1995, more than 7,500 riders have traveled in excess of 11.1 million cumulative motorcycle miles and have raised more than $16 million for Victory Junction and other children's charities. And whereas the City of Hutchinson is proud and honored to have been chosen as a stop for the Kyle Petty Charity Ride Across America. And whereas Petty and other celebrities will be signing autographs and taking pictures with fans before their next day of riding. Now therefore, I, Jade Pires de Carvalho, Mayor of the City of Hutchinson, Kansas, do hereby proclaim May 7, 2015 as Kyle Petty Charity Ride Day in the City of Hutchinson and encourage residents to extend a warm welcome to everyone involved in the Kyle Petty Charity Ride. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you for this proclamation. We're really excited for this event coming up. It's on, as a reminder, this Thursday. It's at our new Holiday Inn Express Hotel. We've got some pretty famous and cool folks coming in on this ride, so we certainly want to encourage the public to attend the autograph session. That'll be from approximately 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. again at the Holiday Inn Express. We will line up any of the public along Katy Street along the sidewalk and then wrap them back around Porter. We would also ask for help with saying a prayer that the weather's going to cooperate with us for Thursday. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. That sounds like fun, and I will definitely see you there. Tony with the Landmarks Commission. Is it Karen?
Karen.
Karen, okay.
And have West here.
Sure, great.
From Landmark.
Thank you both for joining us. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability, and whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds, and whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people, and whereas the local, state, and national historic registers recognize the history of buildings and celebrates the significance of people and places, and whereas in celebration and recognition of Hutchinson's historic heritage, the Hutchinson Landmarks Commission invites the people of Hutchinson to attend the Hutchinson Historic Preservation Month celebration, an event celebrating Hutchinson's heritage. The event will begin at 2 p.m. Sunday, May 17th, 2015 at Houston Whiteside Park at the southwest corner of First and Plum. The celebration will feature the unveiling of the Houston Whiteside street signs toppers, the announcement of the 2015 Historic Preservation Awards, and walking tours of the Houston Whiteside Historic District. Now therefore, I, Jade Pyrus de Carvalho, Mayor of the City of Hutchinson, Kansas, do hereby proclaim May 2015 as Preservation Month in the City of Hutchinson and call upon the people of Hutchinson to recognize and participate in this special observance. Would you two like to say a few words?
I thank you, the City Council, for the proclamation for this month of May as Preservation Month. And as you read in the program, we have an event on May 17, 2 o'clock at the park, at the Houston Whiteside Park. And we're going to have some activity this year different than other years. We're going to have unveil the Houston Whiteside Street Topper, and we're going to have designation for the districts going to be. And I thank the city staff, Jenna and Casey and Justin, for working hard to get that happen. And also we're going to have award this year. We're going to award, that's going to be yearly award for the best or the people who get involved and give us time and money to make preservation happen for preservation of building. Also, we're going to have a walking tour to the Houston Whiteside district, coordination with them, with the group of the Houston Whiteside. We're going to walk, and we're going to have couple block walks of a lot of houses there. So we ask the public and ask you guys to share with us that day and enjoy with us all the nice looking houses in the Houston Whiteside Park.
I just want to thank the council for the support that we on the Landmarks Commission get in our efforts to preserve the history of Hutchinson. As a historian, I'm always interested in what is going on, and preservation is an important part not only of our community but of our history and of the people here. And I just want to thank the council for your support in that effort.
Well, thank you both for your service on that commission. We appreciate all you do. Next item, please.
Item 5, oral communications from the audience.
This is the part of the meeting where we allow public comments from community members. If you'd like to make a public comment about something that is not on the agenda, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and we ask that you limit your remarks to 5 minutes.
Good morning. I'm going to get this out of the way because I don't like talking in public. My name is Christopher Wietrich, 347 Liberty Street. I'm the founder of the Smallville, Kansas Festival. I'd like to pass these around if I could. I'll get them around to you here in a second. It's crazy to think that it's been about 3 years since I first came in here and was terrified. Still kind of am.
We're pretty intimidating, Chris.
Yeah. Just wanted to come in this morning and update everyone on what we have planned this year. This is the second year of the festival. We've almost quadrupled the number of sponsors we had from last year as far as the downtown festival is concerned. It will run June 18th through the 21st this year. Thursday, obviously, we have Third Thursday, the Art Walk. We'll have live music, vendors, inflatables downtown. We have some special superhero themed items that will be happening on Third Thursday. Friday night, we have Concerts for the Cause again at Avenue A Park, which will be benefiting the Boys and Girls Club. There is a book club meeting at Bluebird Books, which they will be discussing superheroes all summer. Melanie Green over at Bluebird has developed several summer reading programs centered around Superman and Smallville, as well as a downtown scavenger hunt the week of the festival, which will include many downtown businesses where you get punch cards and go to the next one and so on. Saturday and Sunday is the Smallville Comic Con, of course. I'll have John come up here and let you know what's going on with that this year. Saturday night we'll have downtown Concerts for the Cause again, benefiting the Reno County Food Bank. and of course another pub crawl put on by Downtown Hutch. All week, of course, the Flag Theater will be presenting "It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman" as their musical for the summer, which I think is a great addition to this year's festival. One of my biggest points for this year's festival is, we want to promote heroes, no matter who they are, where they are. It's not just about Superman. It's just about the idea of doing something small in your community to be a hero. This week I'll be setting up 2 places and businesses where we can send people to donate food. One of my big projects for this year are these bracelets that we've had made for us, and we just ask that people bring a can of food, you get a bracelet, and that's what we consider to be a heroic deed. Our festival has definitely grown over the past 3 years. I never really thought I'd be in this position. But we want to do everything we can to try to inspire people to do something in the community that benefits someone else other than themselves. So that's kind of our way to kind of trick them into, what's a can of food cost. So along with that, we've been very fortunate this year to have some help from the Hutch Community Foundation. If they could go ahead and pull up that picture. I've got permission from Jim Strawn. This is the building at Avenue A in Maine. You can see Yarn's back entrance there. He has given us permission to use that wall as a mural and a tourist spot attraction, and a way to really inspire people. Also bring some more color to downtown. He's approved that we go ahead and do that to his wall. And we feel that would make a perfect spot here in town where people can stop, take their picture if they happen to drive into town. Obviously it's going to really brighten up downtown. I've had my eye on that wall for about 20 years. And, obviously the message is, inspire, hope, and no dreams too big, obviously, because this is year 3. So that's what we have going on this year. I will get these around to everybody after the meeting. I don't think I actually brought enough. But I'll have John come up here and let you know how Comic-Con set up this year.
Thank you, Chris.
I have posters too. I'm John Robinson, owner and promoter at the Smallville Comic-Con. I was here last year. We had a good year last year, had lots of guests coming. This year, pretty much doubled in size, give or take. I'm using the Sunflower South building and the Metal Arc building to house everybody. I had over 100 booths we filled with people from California, different vendors and exhibitors bringing everything from jewelry to clothes to the normal comics and everything, and toys for big kids like me. We have Billy D. Williams coming this year too, which most of you know him from Star Wars. Lee Merriweather was Catwoman in the 66 Batman series. She'll be here too. We've got Katrina Law, who is on Arrow right now, CW's Arrow. She's actually on tomorrow night's episode, so you can see her on TV and then come see her at the show. We've got tons of artists, writers, guests coming, so it's going to be a great show this year. We're going to also have different panels for people who haven't really been there. You go in there and we'll have different film screenings from different film companies that are bringing special things just to watch here. Couple guests are bringing some special stuff just exclusive for the town of Hutchinson. Hopefully, I'm looking to have 6,000 to 8,000 or more people. A lot of people from Kansas City are coming. Going to be a lot of traffic through the town, and hopefully it brings up revenue. I've been working with Chris to get some of my artists downtown too to work with Third Thursday stuff. They're going to come in a little early and hang out around town. A lot of them are excited to go see Stratoca and the Cosmosphere and all that stuff. So I'm trying to promote all those too as well and bring a lot of people to town and just have a great show. But it's the cheapest show you'll get basically to get to see Billy D. Williams and all the guests that we have coming. So hope everybody's able to attend. It's June 20th and 21st this year. So, and Chris and I will be back in later to ask for a proclamation too to change it back to Smallville for that. Probably what, the week or
June 2nd meeting.
yeah, probably June
Great.
2nd meeting.
Well, thanks for your efforts to bring people into the community and provide fun, family-friendly activities. It sounds like a lot of fun. I'll get my cape out.
Cool, awesome. And costumes are welcome. We also got the 501st Legion, which a lot of people don't know them. They're Star Wars costumers, which are basically movie set quality guys, and there's 20 or 30 of them walking around all dressed up. It's great for the kids. The family can enjoy something. There's something for everybody at the show with that many vendors coming, because they're from California to Mississippi to everywhere, bringing all kinds of stuff. So
Great.
ought to be a great time.
Thank you.
I'll just leave this area.
Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to address council on a matter that is not on the agenda? Morning, Mr. Sullivan.
My name is Mike Sullivan. I'd like to request a proclamation.
We didn't have enough.
No, I'm sorry. This is about a piece of property on Arthur and Nickerson Boulevard. Basically, it's a pasture, about 2 acres. It's always had, as far back as any of the neighbors can remember, horses or goats on the pasture. When I bought the property, the real estate guy said it was grandfathered for goats or horses because those had always been in there. When I bought the property in 2012, approximately January, there were 2 horses on it then, and they were still on it for about a year after I bought it. That property's always had a hot wire, according to the neighbor, to keep the horses in. I came in about June of 2012 to have them turn the water on because it took me all of that time to get everything cleaned up. Whoever was there before was collecting junk and stripping old mobile homes. Had lots of dead trees and weeds and junk in there. So it took me that long to clean it up. Well, I came in to have the water turned on, and the ladies in the water department were very helpful. There were in June of 2012, there were some tall weeds, which I wanted to get mowed. I wasn't aware at the time that there was a problem with weeds being too tall. I wanted them mowed so the pasture would grow, so I could put goats in there and maybe horses later. So anyway, the ladies referred me to, I didn't know who to get to mow it, so they referred me to a guy on that side of the building. They said, there's a guy in bib overalls, he'll help you. So I went over and talked to him, and he asked what the property was. I told him, and I said, can you refer me to somebody with a bush hog so I can get it mowed? And he says, we'll be there next week to mow it, and we're gonna bill you approximately $400. I mean, I'm trying to do the right thing, and he's not being very helpful. Well, I found a guy from church that'd mow it for $100, so I had that taken care of. Then sometime in the summer of 2013, I moved some goats in, and I was finishing cleaning up trees and stuff that were in the fence, repairing the fence and the hot wire, which had been broken. And there was a city truck sitting over there for about 30 minutes while the wife and I were cleaning up the trees. I kind of wondered what the deal was, and she said that you're going to get a letter from the city. Sure enough, I got a certified letter, which I think costs about $8 every time the city sends one of those out, saying it ain't zoned for goats, get them out. So I went in to appeal it because 3 days later I was going to Arizona to do some mission work on the Navajo reservation. So I went and talked to the young man that was in there. I said, can you give me a little more time? And he said, well, ain't zoned for goats, you got to get them out. And I said, well, I don't have time. I'm going to be leaving in 3 days. There's no place to go with them. And he said, in a very unkind way, we'll see you in court. I mean, you'd think he could give me a little more time. Well, so I appealed to his boss, and she said, I'll give you another month so you can get rid of the goats. So in that month, I did a little more homework after I got back from the mission trip. Talked to the mayor, I think it was Mr. Bush at the time. Provided some information to the city attorney that, in fact, there had been goats and horses in there in the past, and they were grandfathered. Anyway, several months later, or sometime later, I got a call from the city attorney. He was very nice about it. He said, the goats are fine, we'll leave you alone. And that was okay for a while, and I did some more work on the property. Then last month, I got another certified letter, but I wasn't there. So I went back to the post office, went to the post office to get the letter. It wasn't there, and I said, what do I do? And the post lady said, well, they'll send you another one. So I waited a week or so. I didn't get another letter, and I didn't think more about it until I got a subpoena to show up in court because of this hot wire. When I spoke with the zoning people, they knew the hot wire was there, and they knew why it was there, and there was no problem with it then. But at any rate, went to court after I got the subpoena. Said show up in court or else we'll issue a warrant for your arrest. Well, I show up in court, and the judge kind of laughing up there, he said, well, I've never seen one of these before. It's got a hot wire, and it's not supposed to have hot wire in the city. But he said, well, work, there's a city guy over there, just go work with him. So I go out in the hall and work with this very young guy in the zoning department. Told him what I was doing. He said, that sounds fine to me. I'll work with my boss, and maybe we can work this out. I gave him my cell phone number and my home phone number, and he said he'd call me. Well, 2 weeks passed before the court date, and he never called. So anyway, I go to court, and the judge says, well, I'll give you another month to get subpoena witnesses or hire an attorney or whatever. So anyway, my whole point is that city employees should be here to help people. Some city employees are bureaucrats who just want to do whatever the rule says without any thought to something that's maybe a compromise of some sort. That property out there and most of the neighborhood out there started to get out of the city, and they're all big acreages. I know you have to have the grass mowed or whatever, but frankly, there was some comment here about environmentalism. The goats mow the weeds, they mow the pasture, they fertilize it, they don't do anything, they don't harm anybody, they don't bark, they don't raise noise. They're really good for the environment.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're several minutes into this. I agree with your assessment that the city staff should be here to help members of the public, but with all due respect to them, I think that their job is to uphold the policies that are put in place for them, and common sense should certainly enter into that, those decisions when possible. We've discussed this in length the other day, and after speaking with the city manager, from what I understand, once those cases are in municipal court, our hands are somewhat tied on what we can do. I mean, what can we do as a council right now?
Well,
Pretty much nothing.
Our past practice, once it's in municipal court, that's where it needs to be addressed. And the issue isn't about the goats, it's about the fence.
Electric
It's
fence.
About the hot
fence.
wire, yeah.
The electric fences are not allowed in the city limits, period. And in this particular case, there was a complaint from an area resident. So it isn't about the goats, it's not about the horse, it's about electric fence, whether that's allowed in the city limits or not. Is that correct?
That's what the thing
Yes.
said, yeah.
And
However,
so
it would be nice if I could address the question or the complainant. I had a tenant in there who left and didn't leave the place like he found it. He didn't get all his money back. I mean, I can only assume that he's the one that filed the complaint. And there is another hot wire just a block away to keep, the hot wire's about this high, and it's not a very big area, but it's in there to keep the dogs from jumping out, which are really mean-looking dogs. So there are other hot wires around. And my whole thing with the hot wire is it's not a hazard to anyone. Kids come and look at the goats and play with the goats. You can't even reach the hot wire unless you jump the fence and try to touch the hot wire. So it's not really a hazard to anybody. It just keeps the goats in the pen. So,
I can really understand your frustration, especially being at the edge of the city limits and having it within another fence. But I'm not sure there's a whole lot of action we can take on that unless we change zoning to allow electric fences in the city limits, which wouldn't probably be a wise decision.
well, part of my reason for being here is city employees, and many of that, you've got some great city employees who are very helpful and very friendly. I've dealt with 4 of them who've all been very unkind, some of them rather mean. They're certainly not helpful.
Well, and
they're-
I certainly hope you would lodge complaints with the city manager whenever you encounter people who aren't being as helpful as they should, because they are here to serve you.
Yeah.
But-
Well, I
I
don't want to
appre-
be a pain.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you
Share
coming
that, yeah.
and speaking with us today, and I wish we could be of more assistance.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the council? Morning, Ron.
Hi, good morning. I'll just take a couple of minutes of your time. Hi, I'm Ron Williams. Some of you people know me. I am the chairman of Hutchinson Festivals, which is organizing this year's Hutch Fest plans. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, we're meeting at the Chamber again. We have been planning the 4th of July weekend fireworks show and family-friendly fun, to quote Jade. We're doing a car and bike show this year. We will be at the fairgrounds again July 3rd and 4th, and then we'll be out at Salt City Splash for our family swim night. We've added events like the Kansas City Barbecue Society sanctioned state championship for barbecue cook-off. That will be starting on Friday the 3rd with, they will be cooking for the public on Friday night, and then they will be competing with pork, chicken, ribs, and brisket on the 4th of July. So besides the parade in the morning, come back out to the fairgrounds in the afternoon from noon to 5, and we'll have barbecue and also some more car and bike show and inflatables, and we'll have a lot of live stage show entertainment, including our talent show, which will be on Friday evening. Of course, Saturday night, the 4th of July, we'll be at the grandstands. This year we've added dirt track racing, which is a pretty cool event. Mel Hamilton Ford and 81 Speedway are bringing the races to the fairgrounds, which, working with the fairgrounds people, this should be a pretty popular event attended by a lot of people, which of course will culminate with the annual 4th of July fireworks show that evening, which will be, the grandstands will be open. There is a wristband this year and a button to get into Hutch Fest. They're going to be available for purchase through Quick Shops. And to get into the races, though, the races will have a fee. It's like $12 for adults, and you get a discount off of that entry fee with a Hutch Fest wristband or button. And then that evening, we're going to open the gates for public viewing of the fireworks at 9:30, and then we have a short video presentation called Honoring Hutchinson Heroes, which is a theme I think we're all getting into. It's catching on. The Honoring Hutchinson Heroes, we're producing a video with the Hutchinson Community College, interviewing area veterans from as far back as World War II and Korea and Vietnam and some of the old wars. So with the area veterans participating in this video, these are usually Hutchinson residents that either were residents when they went into the military or came here afterwards. And so we're producing a video and we'll present that before the crowd. It's about 15 or 18 minutes, and then we'll have the fireworks show on the 4th. So I encourage the public to come. We'll be back again with a full schedule. We are having a meeting tomorrow night at 6 o'clock if anybody would like to attend. We usually say if anybody wants to be part of Hutch Fest, we say yes. Then we figure out how we're going to make it possible. The city did approve at our last meeting funding for the fireworks. We are working with sponsors to make that fireworks show even bigger and better than originally planned. We have had some new sponsors come on board, which is great, and we're in contact with the old sponsors to see if they want to keep supporting the 26th annual Hutchinson Hutch Fest. So if we seem well, if I seem a little bit nervous, I am, but I'm working with a new group of board members. We've added on 5 new board members in the last year, and that brings our total up to about 9 organizers. So we still need volunteers to help organize the event, but we typically work with vendors or participants, to make an event happen. They don't necessarily have to serve on the board to make that happen. So it's open to the public. If anybody wants to come tomorrow night, great. If you want to email me, just get a hold of us at hutchfest.org or Ron at hutchfest.org, and we'll make sure we get you on the schedule.
Thank you so much, Ron. Sounds
Okay.
like you're really reviving that community festival.
Thank you.
Are there additional comments from the audience? Hearing none. Next item, please.
Item 6, consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please call a roll.
Deckent,
Yes.
Inskeep,
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7A, consider resolution regarding reimbursement of expenses for the sports arena.
Good morning, Council. Frank Edwards, Director of Finance for the city. With the voters approving the renovation of the sports arena, we're here to talk about reimbursement of expenses to the city. The city will incur certain expenses such as architecture, engineering, and consulting costs related to the renovation of the sports arena prior to the issuance of bonded debt. The IRS has issued regulations which define procedures for the city's reimbursement of capital expenditures made before the date of issuance of the bonds or other tax-exempt obligations. In order to comply with these regulations, the city must adopt this resolution of intent that's before you to reimburse itself for previous capital expenditures. The resolution must be adopted before the date of such obligations. So if the city council adopts this resolution, the city will be able to fund certain expenses prior to the issuance of bonds, and the staff would recommend that the council approve this resolution.
Thanks, Frank. Is there any discussion or questions?
We will pay this from what? I mean, where will we
City
charge these expenses that we're being reimbursed?
We'll set up a project accounts within the
Okay.
city's general fund, and
Okay.
once the tax money starts coming in, that will be the reimbursement of the funds.
Okay.
And throughout the course of this project, as you know, it's a 2-3 year. We'll probably have a series of bond
Yep.
issues. We'll issue some bonds today because we don't obviously need all the money day
Right.
one. So it'll be a
Okay.
series of bonds.
Yeah, we could issue bonds 2 or 3 times depending on when the monies are needed.
Okay. That makes sense.
Further questions or comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion on this item.
I would move to approve the resolution of intent of the city of Hutchinson, Kansas to finance certain improvements with the issuance of federally tax exempt debt and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Deckent,
Yes.
Inskeep,
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7B, consider ordinance and related documents on behalf of Commerce Gardens.
Commerce Gardens is proposing some major reconstruction and renovation to its properties across from the mall, on the south side of the mall. The property is made up currently of 24 one-bedroom units, 48 two-bedroom units, and 33 bedroom units. So the property is very old and has been subject to much damage from the hailstorms we had and flooding. This proposal will provide for 48 one-bedroom units, 16 two-bedroom units, and 32 three-bedroom units. The issue is due to certain HUD and HUD lender requirements, the investors are accelerating the issuance of up to $10 million of taxable revenue bonds. To accomplish this, the council must consider this enclosed ordinance, the bond purchase agreement, the trust indenture, and the lease agreement. The fiscal impact is if the bonds are approved for issuance, the city will be the leaseholder of the property, and Commerce Gardens LLC will be the lessee. At such times the bonds are paid in full, the city will deed the property back to Commerce Gardens. The city is not responsible for any expenses related to this property. Debt service payments are also the responsibility of Commerce Gardens LLC. No city funds or taxes are used to make debt service payments. In addition, Commerce Gardens is responsible for paying all city expenses related to reviewing the bond documents and issuance of IRBs, and that would include our legal expenses for issuing these. The procedure is the city council must consider the ordinance, the bond purchase agreements, the trust indenture, the lease agreements to issue the bonds on behalf of Commerce Gardens LLC for the purpose of reconstructing the apartments. Also with us today, if you have certain questions, is representatives of the investors. But the staff would recommend that we approve the ordinance and the accompanying documents.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I know this is something that's come before us several times over the.
I was just going to add that just for the benefit of the two newest council members, we actually, back in November of 2014, issued a letter of intent for this whole project. And during that discussion, went through a lot of detail, more detail obviously than today. And don't want to say today's a formality, but because if you looked at the thickness of the packet, it's not a formality. There's a lot of stuff there. But we did vet this out pretty heavily back in November, but we'd be happy to address any questions that you might have. And we are basically, they're tearing down all the existing structure in phases and replace it with new units.
The main thing I took away was that the city doesn't have any liability expenditures to upkeep, anything like that.
That's correct.
Okay.
We're basically just a pass-through agent.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Now, we do have representatives from the company, the bond counsel here, if any, just so you know that if there's any questions about that.
I didn't know if the representatives wanted the chance to speak since they sat through the goat.
I don't, yeah.
Dialogue.
Kim Bell is representing Gilmore Bell or with Gilmore Bell representing the company, but she's just here to address any questions you might have.
And I don't think there'll be any goats on this project.
I don't think so either.
Oh, Matt Cantney's is back there. I didn't see Matt back there. Okay. He's one of the principals involved, so certainly. And excited about this new development. I don't know if you want to talk about schedules or anything like that, you're welcome to, but it's going to be a good project for us.
Yeah, we're really excited to see it. It's something that's needed to happen for a while in that area. A lot of people have experienced displacement and other issues because of the flooding, so happy for the investment. I'd entertain a motion if there's no further discussion.
Okay, I will move to approve the ordinance, bond purchase agreement, trust indenture, and lease agreement regarding issuing industrial revenue bonds on behalf of Commerce Gardens. Authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Dave Line?
I will abstain since I serve on the board of directors of the Commerce Gardens Group.
Soldner?
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7C, consider ordinance amending Chapter 27 of the City Code regarding off-premises signage.
Good morning, Jana McCarron, Director of Planning and Development. And the case before you is an amendment to the zoning regulations for off-premise signage. Just a little history on this proposal. Earlier this year actually, Luminous Neon Signs contacted the Planning Department about the possibility of placing an off-premise sign realized I wanted to point to something here. An off-premise sign on the northeast corner here of East 20th and North Lorraine Street. And they wanted to put a sign advertising the hospital. As you guys may know, the hospital's reconstructing the entrance over here to their emergency room, and they're hoping to direct traffic up and down Lorraine and across 20th rather than over through the windy way here on Waldron. So they approached the city asking for the possibility of putting a sign at this corner. The issue that the planning department had with it is that the property is actually zoned C2. And in that C2, which is our neighborhood commercial zoning district, we do not allow off-premise signs unless the lot that is advertising is right next to it. So this would be what we consider a non-adjacent lot. And so in our regulations, off-premise signage is allowed only on an adjacent lot if you're trying to put a sign in that C2 zone. So in the interim time, we did work with Luminous Neon as well as with the Planning Commission to try and see, well, would the Planning Commission entertain the possibility of allowing for some off-premise signage, maybe smaller signage to be placed in that C2 zone. And the proposal before you, which was recommended by the Planning Commission, is to amend the sign regulations to allow for that non-adjacent off-premise signage in the C2 zone with the following conditions. It would be a maximum height of 8 feet, a maximum sign area of 40 feet, and then sign approval would be obtained through a special use permit from the Board of Zoning Appeals. I have a couple of photos here of where the signage would be located. This is looking toward the west, and here's the corner. Of course, it wouldn't be able to be in the site triangle. So it would be far enough away from the corner that it wouldn't block traffic, the view of traffic for cars going around that corner. And then here's a view looking towards the north. The sign would be placed in approximately this area. The applicant has also submitted a concurrent application for a special use permit in the hopes that City Council would approve the sign, so I can show you what they're proposing to put there. And that application will be considered tonight. So what they're proposing is an 8-foot tall double-sided sign. It's approximately almost 5 feet wide, so it does meet the requirements if you were to approve the ordinance. It would be backlit. It does require a solar panel to be placed on the property because there is not electricity to the lot at this time. And the Planning Commission did, as I said, recommend approval. I'm happy to answer any questions. There is also a representative from the hospital as well as from Luminous Neon in the audience.
Jen, if this were an adjacent property, how large of a sign would be permissible?
I think it's 150 square feet. I didn't bring my ordinance with me.
Okay. What other sort of if this were approved, what other sort of situations may we be looking at in the future?
Well, there are about 40 different areas in the city that have C2 zoning. Unfortunately, they're scattered throughout town. I was going to bring you a map, but they're so scattered and they're very small, so you wouldn't be able to see them. I'd have to show you about 20 different slides. So in the interest of, I started on that project and I realized that it's not really easy for me to show. I don't think it'll have a huge amount of ramifications for 2 reasons. The signage size is very small. 40 square feet is a very small sign. So most people probably wouldn't want to invest money in an off-premise sign that is not going to be highly visible. In this case, it will be visible because the lot is vacant and the hospital does own the property. If the lot does develop, I don't think the sign's going to be all that visible and they may have to, I don't know what they'll do at that time. But I don't think it'll have a huge number of ramifications. We did look at other communities. Most communities do not allow off-premise signage. It can be confusing to motorists. This is kind of a special case because most of the intervening property is owned by the hospital.
Okay. Are there other questions? If not, I entertain a motion on this item.
I would move to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission to approve amendments to Section 27-804H of the zoning regulations of the Hutchinson City Code and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion or anyone in the audience who would like to address council on this? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Deckent,
Yes.
Inskeep,
Yes.
Dave Light.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8A, consider request for conditional use permit for a gasoline filling station at 1903 East 17th.
Good morning again. Janet McCarron, Director of Planning and Development. The proposal before you is 15 CUP 05. It is a conditional use permit for a filling station to be located at 1903 East 17th Avenue. You can see that from the aerial photo there. It's right adjacent to Walmart. So my pen's still here. This is Walmart here, and the gas station would be out here on one of the outlots. My understanding that there was a gas station there that's cited in the past that has been demolished and the tanks have been removed. So the applicant, which is Murphy Oil, will have to be reinstall the tanks and build a new structure. Have a couple of elevations here for you. You can see it's a very small, the out parcel is not very large, so the whole operation would be fairly small. There would be 4 pumps, and what they call a kiosk would be manned, but customers could not go into the kiosk. They would also have a couple of vending machines on the outside where you can buy soda, maybe chips. And here's another drawing. The proposal does meet the city's landscaping requirements. You can see the landscaping up here. And here's a site plan for the property. Here's the underground storage tanks, the parking, and the kiosk is here in the middle with the pumps on either side. And here's a couple of views of the property in case you've not been to Walmart lately. But this is looking towards the southwest, and here's Walmart in the background. And then looking almost due west, Walmart in the background, and the gas station would go right here. The Planning Commission did consider the proposal and recommended approval unanimously with a few conditions which are listed in your staff report. I didn't bring my copy of the staff report up here, so let me just grab that real fast. The conditions of approval were that the conditional use permit would be only used for a gas station and permitted accessory uses on Lot 1, Block 1, Hutchinson Commercial Development Number 2. The parcel shall only be developed in accordance with the approved site plan, landscape plan, and architectural elevation drawings. That the rooftop mechanical equipment shall be screened from public view with the compatible architectural treatments such as metal panels, stucco panels, a parapet wall, or similar treatment. And the applicant has provided us with elevation drawings showing that it will be screened. A building permit shall be obtained prior to construction, and a sign permit shall be obtained prior to installation of any signs. The applicant is here. He can answer any questions, and I'll be happy to try to answer questions as well.
I was visualizing it being similar to what's outside the marketplace, that type of kiosk. With
Yeah, so it'd be very small little kiosk.
Okay.
Mhm.
Janet, just a couple of questions. Will Murphy Oil Company own the real estate?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, all right. The company will own the real estate. We own it. Very good, okay, fine. Second question, in the notes from the Planning Commission, it talked about some turning areas for trucks and unloading may be a little tight with location of parking spaces. Has that been dealt with in terms of the turning spaces to the satisfaction of the city?
To go up.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
This is Eric Wilhite and Wayne Gibson.
I'm Eric Wilhiden with Greenberg Farrow, the consultant working with Murphy Oil and Mr. Gibson on the project. Yeah, when we do these sites, we have a software program that runs the truck route, as we call it, and I think the staff has one of those drawings that kind of showed the truck route. It's just a generalization to see that it will work. We can adjust that to some extent. It's just hypothetical in many ways, but it does kind of come fairly close to one of the parking spaces, but the likelihood that obviously the truck can probably turn a little bit tighter in that particular exhibit that we show, we can adjust that to see that it still works. We've done that, and they won't hit the parked vehicles or anything else.
Yes, you're comfortable with it, the planning
It's
commission is
gonna-
comfortable with it?
Yeah, it's a very tight site, but we deal with
Yeah.
a lot of different sites like this, but the truck drivers get in there and get out easily enough.
And we have to design the site in such a way that the truck can get safely on and off of the property. And also, we have to design it in such a way that he or she who's driving the truck, they have to offload from the right side. So therein lies
The way it has to maneuver, it has to go counterclockwise.
And the entrances and exits will be where?
Where you see the large arrows.
Where the
and stop
large
signs.
arrows are,
Yes,
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, well, I thought that's probably what that was, but,
Mr.
there-
Gibson, it's my understanding that you had the station there that was prior, right? So have you owned this property since?
we've owned the property for about 5 years. There was
Okay.
another competitor station that was there before.
Oh, okay.
Tesoro was there years ago. They completely demoed the site, removed the tanks, as was mentioned, reclaimed the property, and we bought the property. As I said, it's been over 5 years ago.
Okay. Janet, can you help me understand why a special use permit is required when a business of a similar nature was there in the first place? Was that a special use permit as well?
I believe it was, when, this is a different owner of the property. And actually, our regulations changed. It used to require a special use permit. Now it requires conditional use permit. So, that's
Okay.
probably why.
Okay. No, that
That'd
makes
be my
sense.
guess.
Thank you.
I
was
really never
just
thought about it.
confused. Well, I remember when the original one was built, and so I was just curious why we needed to go through this
It is a
protocol.
different
But that's
owner,
fine.
it's a different configuration. If it was the same configuration exactly, I would think it wouldn't need it.
Thank you.
So are we talking $1.50 a gallon gas? For a grand opening
Well,
special, or?
you wish.
Maybe at some point in the future, but not right now.
The drawing did indicate 234, I think.
234,
which
yeah.
might
So it'll be that
attractive.
forever.
Yeah.
When we originally started this program back in 1996, the price on the canopy on the drawings was $99.
That is.
How things have changed. Further discussion or questions from the council? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move we approve as presented to us by staff.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Dave Light?
Yes.
Soldner?
yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho?
Yes. Next item, please.
Ms. Mayor, council, thank you.
Thank you for your investment.
Item 8B, consider request to rezone 2201 North Lorraine.
Good morning, I'm Casey Jones, Senior Planner from your friendly planning department. And
It's a matter of
I'm here to
opinion.
tell you about a request we received from Mr. Jim Strawn, who's here in the audience today. He is the proud owner of the property at 2201 North Lorraine Street. It's right here in the middle of the picture on the screen, outlined in yellow. Currently, it's a vacant lot. There used to be a house there that was in pretty bad shape. He and his company have torn that house down and don't have any immediate plans to develop the property, but would like to have it rezoned. Currently, it's zoned R5, which is high-density residential, for multiple family dwellings. It's adjacent to the family entertainment district, where the new bowling alley is located. And all of that bowling alley and family entertainment district property is zoned C4. So he's requesting to have that changed from R5 to C4, which is in keeping with the adjacent zoning. You'll see the neighborhood to the south is single-family dwellings. It's zoned R4. And then across the street to the east, on the east side of Lorraine, you do have land that's owned by Hutchinson Regional Medical Center, as well as an apartment complex called the Clusters. Here's a look at our future land use map. You'll notice that the uses that are actually being developed in the area aren't really consistent with this map. We haven't gone back and revised this map in quite a while. I believe it was last revised in 2005. So it's actually calling for low-density residential uses on the subject property. And then, I'm sorry I don't have a current picture of the property, but we took this before the house went down. But this is what the property used to look like. And that house is no longer there. We did have the Planning Commission hold a public hearing on this case on April the 7th. They are recommending approval by a unanimous vote of 7-0 to approve the rezoning request. I would say there were a number of citizens, nearby homeowners, mainly from that street just to the south, who attended the meeting. I think we had 2 or 3 members of the public in attendance at the meeting. And in your packet, you have copies of all the written comments that we received. I think there were about 4, maybe 5 different comments that came in. There were some concerns about changing the zoning to commercial, mainly having to do with impacts that you would normally see from a commercial use, traffic, noise, lighting, and those types of things. There was talk about what kind of landscaping might be required, if there would be screening required along the south property line. And our zoning ordinance does require some type of screening. It gives the applicant 3 different options on how to provide screening. But in any event, I think the applicant will more than likely put in some evergreen trees in addition to a privacy fence along that south property line. That's typically what we see, but there is some flexibility in the ordinance, so there's a few different options for how the applicant could go about that. And like I said, this is just a straight zoning case, so we don't have any development plans for you to look at this time. Have any questions for me or of the applicant?
Can you talk about the screening that would come into play sometime in the future more, please?
Yes, sure. I brought with me a copy of our screening ordinance. If you're interested in looking that up, it's in the zoning regulations. It's in section 27908 E10. And it says that buffers and screening shall be required where a non-residential use is adjacent to a residential use. And that would be the case here. It says screening shall be provided on the site of the more intensive use in accordance with the following. A landscape buffer between the proposed developed area and the property line of the adjacent property is required. It says the landscape buffer shall run the entire length of the abutting property line. The type of buffer may consist of any or all of the following. The first option is to include a solid fence with a landscape buffer a minimum of 5 feet wide. And in that buffer, 5 feet wide, you can either provide a minimum of 9 points of landscaping for every 25 linear feet, or trees spaced a maximum of 25 feet on center. That was option 1. Option 2 is a landscape buffer no less than 6 feet wide, planted with a series of evergreen plantings at least 6 feet in height, and spaced in a manner to provide a continuous visual barrier. Option 3, which we rarely see, is a natural, undisturbed wooded area at least 20 feet in width.
So for practical purposes, maybe there's some developments in town that would help us visualize. So for instance, Dillon's Marketplace, buffer on the back side, would that be?
Yes.
Yes.
representative of what would be required,
Exactly.
that tree line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you'll see, when those plantings go in, they don't necessarily provide the solid screening at the time they're planted, but over time they eventually grow into a solid barrier.
The other areas that are already, C4, that also border those houses, is there a barrier in place for those already? Those two?
Yeah, and I think you
Do
can
you recall what it
see
is?
in this aerial photo,
do
you
see
might be able to
trees
make out some of the trees that are there.
It
Now,
looks like 2 rows, maybe?
right. Now, some of those have been taken out, but the city council actually approved a subdivision of that property, and one of the conditions of that subdivision was that the property owner would provide a permanent, perpetual landscaped easement there for those trees. And so most of those trees have remained in place. And of course, those lots haven't been developed yet. Those are still vacant, undeveloped lots adjacent to the backs of these homes. So whenever they become developed, the city will be requesting a plan. We'll want to know exactly what kind of landscaping will go in there. And more than likely, the existing trees will remain. That's on the west side of that vacant property, or the southwest side of the vacant property, the C4 area.
Jim Strawn, don't want to get ahead of the rezoning application here, but can you enlighten us a little bit on what your long-range plans would be for this particular parcel?
Good morning, Council.
Morning.
Jim Strawn. We really just wanted to have that contiguous piece of land for commercial development so that we can continue the tree plantings and things along would that be the north side of the homes, south side of our property. So our intent is to continue that tree row in there. I believe that we agreed to that at the planning commission meeting that I wasn't at. I was out of town, and I believe Brad said that we were planning on extending those trees on up towards Lorraine Street to buffer that. Our intent is to be a good neighbor, but yet, everything around there has now been zoned C4, and, by making that contiguous, it just gives us, better use of the land to make sure that when we're developing buildings and things, that if we need that space, we have it available.
So is that why you chose to go with C4 instead of C2?
Yeah, everything else we have right there, and it gives us the flexibility. We may not need the C4, but it gives us the flexibility to have it available, so we don't have to come in and get a special use permit each time. We do have a pad site being built just to the north of this property, and we're within days of getting our engineer drawings back and buying the building permit for a piece of a restaurant. I could just say that, yeah.
Great.
Can you say anything else?
I could say other things, but I mean, I can't. I won't give them out.
All right.
name
Okay.
yet.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Nice try, John.
I gotta ask.
But we do plan to continue that buffer with probably cedar trees because they have some Scott and Austrian pines and they've had pine needle wilt up in that area. But we do intend to replace those with cedar trees if they die. And, our goal is to be a good neighbor for the neighborhoods up there.
Yeah, this is one of the first items we took under consideration when the last council was installed. And I remember this being very, very sensitive,
Yes.
very sensitive issue to those neighbors. So I
We
hope that-
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jim?
time schedule, Jim, on your planning process for this property here?
Pardon me?
How soon do you plan to plat this?
I don't know as we're going to plat this.
Oh, really?
At this time, I think since it's
Janice
a
is-
separate site, I don't know
Janice
as we
is-
need to plat that.
Well,
Even
yeah,
though it's
before
just
he
a separate
develops
lot.
it.
It's not platted right now.
Oh, okay. We'll be proceeding.
So you'll be
Sooner than
proceeding.
you thought is the answer to that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Jim, on that R5 site that we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
You intend to go ahead and put the trees in
We'll
generally
probably
almost
go
all
ahead and
grown
put
right
the trees in soon.
soon. Okay.
So
That's
that we
like
can
a
get them
double or
started
triple tree
growing.
row, isn't it?
Pardon me?
It's about a double or triple tree row, as I recall.
Two, I think, is
Two.
what we were zigzagging of a pair. That would match what's
What's
off
already
to the
there
west.
to the west?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other concern they mentioned is drainage, and I know zero
That's-
about drainage.
it's
Is
pretty
that
well
going to
been-
be an issue, or
It's all been resolved.
it has been? Okay.
Yeah, we've got a detention pond and things that is adjacent to this site that all of our water would go to. So we've designed for it.
Perfect.
Okay. Typically in larger developments, drainage studies are required prior to.
Yes.
Correct.
Jim, as an off subject, tell us a little bit about your time schedule on the bowling alley. When is it going to open? And
About a
all that?
month.
Huh?
Coming right up. It's about a month away. Where do you see it? I don't know if I don't really get on Facebook, but my daughter sent me some things that I happened to look at on Facebook, and so there's a lot of pictures on there. You should get on there and look at it. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, I think you'll be really proud of it. Hutchinson will be.
That's great.
We're excited for it. Thank
Good work,
you.
Jim.
Thank you.
People are
Good
looking
work.
forward.
Is there any further discussion or anyone in the audience who'd like to address the council on this item? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Okay, I will move to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission to approve the request to rezone the property at 2201 North Lorraine Street from R5 to C4 as presented by staff.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none.
No,
Oh,
I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to comment, if I may, and I don't know if I'm a little bit late on that or not.
No,
but,
not at all.
I wasn't present when that entire area was first considered. I'm glad to hear about the continuation of the screening. So I looked at that site closely over the weekend, and I think that the plantings will be helpful. I kind of wish we could have gone with a kind of a C2 buffer between the residents and the C4 zone, but that particular parcel is now surrounded on the two sides by the C4. It was just my thinking that a C2 would have given a little bit of a buffer right behind the residential area before it moved to C4. So just some comments I wanted to make.
Yeah, I think that was something I considered as well, Steve. But in looking at the property, it would only push the C2 behind two properties.
Oh,
The others are all C4. So the
Right.
buffer would only apply to a couple in those neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So, but I understand what you're saying there. Are there other further comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Deckent,
Yes.
Inskeep,
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8C, consider request to rezone 419 and 423 East 13th Avenue.
Okay. Council, this is a request by Hutchinson Community College to rezone two lots that they have acquired. These lots are located in the 400 block of East 13th Avenue. They're just to the west of Plum Street on the south side of 13th Avenue. And the location is just across the street from the HCC campus. They do have an existing parking lot next to this site. On the map before you, the area shown as PI, colored in blue, is the existing parking lot. And they've acquired the two adjacent houses to it, outlined in yellow. The college's plan is to remove those homes and expand their parking lot. They would have one new driveway going out onto 13th. And the idea is just to provide some additional parking spaces and improve the flow of traffic through that parking lot. It's zoned residential now, R4. And the request is to change the zoning to PI, which stands for public and institutional, just to be consistent with the other land that the college owns. And our regulations require, if you have parking, if you're using parking for a business or for an institution or school, that parking lot should be zoned the same as your primary use. Here's a view of our future land use map. Again, just like that previous case, it isn't quite consistent with the uses that we actually have out in the field. So the area on the west side of Plum Street is all shown as low-density residential on our future land use map. And then I have a few pictures here, site plans that were provided by the applicant. This is just a simple site survey showing you the boundary of the lot and the footprint of the existing houses. There's 2 houses with a couple of garages in the backyard. And then
How many houses did you say?
there's 2 houses.
2 houses on 2 lots.
On 2 lots. The area outlined in black bold is the proposed parking. You can see the proposed parking on the left-hand side of the screen and the existing parking lot on the right-hand side.
Casey, is most of that housing up there student housing?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Couldn't tell you.
I don't think it's.
I don't think it's really-
I mean, not formal,
I know there are a lot of
college
rentals
owned
to
or anything like
college
that.
students up
Yeah,
there, so.
it's a mix of that.
Could be rental,
Could be, yeah.
owner occupied, that we don't know.
No, we haven't studied that.
Casey,
We
that
really
slide
don't.
confuses me. The existing parking is a kind of a L-shaped, or has a leg.
I don't think
Let
it's
me go
showing
back,
this,
to this
the
map.
southern lot.
Oh, it's not showing the, okay. It's just showing the northern half of that. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah, the existing parking is L-shaped. So this, by adding the new parking lot in, it will just
Squares it
simply
off.
square it off.
Squares it out.
But you're correct. This picture only shows you the north half. There are 82 spaces in the existing parking lot. That's the entire L-shaped parking lot. The new parking lot would have an additional 56 spaces, and that would create a total of 138 spaces on this parking lot. Just some pictures from Google Maps shows you what's there today. This is the view from 13th Avenue back toward the south. And then this is a view looking at the subject property. The greenhouse on the right is not included. It's the 2 houses to the left of that are the properties we're talking about. Well, it looks like that's all I had as far as pictures go. The public hearing went rather smoothly. I don't believe we received any comments from the public on this case. We didn't have any written comments submitted, and no citizens appeared to speak about this at the public hearing. We did notify all the surrounding neighbors within 200 feet, and staff had recommended approval of the request. The Planning Commission also recommended approval with a unanimous vote. And I believe the applicant, Gary Haller from SCJF, SJCF Architects is here, and Julie Blanton from the college is also here if you have any questions for the applicant.
Would either one of you mind kind of giving an overview of where you are in this process in terms of the acquisition and your time schedule, if this were to be approved?
At this
You want to
point,
come on up here?
I'm Julie Blanton. I'm with Hutchinson Community College. At this point, the college does not own any other property farther, like in my directions, farther west of this lot. So this would simply square off the parking that we already have.
But you currently own those 2 homes?
You own
We
those
do
two-
own those 2
You own
properties.
those 2 homes?
Yes, we
Okay,
do.
very good.
I have
thought-
a
go ahead.
daughter that, sorry, excuse me, attends Hutchinson Community College, go Dragons. And I know, in fact, she parks either on 13th or 14th Street because of the parking issues that are there, which causes more congestion on those streets, because then you got students up and down, or cars parked up and down those streets as well. I think the additional, I heard 56 parking spaces would go a little ways towards helping alleviate some of that stress on those streets as well.
Every year we do a student survey of all of our student body, and we ask them, to identify things that they'd like to see improved or things that they like about the college. And every year, one of our biggest complaints is not enough parking.
I really, really hate to bring this up, but I must. As it relates to these two lots, Gary, maybe you have an answer here. What would your plans be for lighting the parking lot?
I knew it.
I apologize for my voice. I lost it yesterday.
All right, Gary.
There is currently lighting along the south side of the south end of the parking lot. We would be taking off those. We would be taking out those light poles which are on the west side, which border that property in the residential area. We would move the light poles to the center of the lot proper. So as you're looking north south along the center line of that property, there would be new lighting that would kind of light up both sides of that, east and west.
Was there an illustration of that? I think maybe one of the drawings.
That's probably the best one I had.
The center line there.
Yeah, you can kind of see the trees
Mm-hmm.
right in this area here. And that would continue on south, so the poles would be along that planting area. And so it would light this side and this side. And I think there's some city ordinances about how much lighting can spill over into adjacent
Right.
property. Right now, the lights are along the western edge down here. We'll be taking those out.
And the continuation as you described.
Correct.
through
Yes.
both lots.
I would
Thank you.
also add there's a cross aisle that would be right in here. So if a kid came in this side and there wasn't a parking place, they could cross over and go into this side, as opposed to going all the way up on the 13th and looping back around, or down the 12th and looping back around. There's a cross aisle here.
Okay.
Well, this is a safety issue. In the judgment, I think we need to be responsible, and I know the college wants to be responsible, so certainly pleased that you have incorporated that into your plan.
How much, how will that center pole lighting change the spillage going to the west, to the neighbors? I would assume that the lighting along the west is directed east now, away from the residences.
Correct.
So what sort of spillage will there be, or
Well,
how
it
will that
will be-
impact?
Like I say, it'll comply with city ordinances, but it will be LED lighting, I believe, and we will put up a fence along that western edge, and there's a point value that it can be spilling onto that fence, but not over into the adjacent property. So we'll comply with that.
Okay.
Different question. I think there's some information in the packet, and I'm not recalling it clearly, as to plans beyond this particular lot for parking expansion.
At this time, the college doesn't have any further plans for parking expansion. We don't own any more property at this point.
Kind of landlocked.
Mhm.
Encourage bicycling.
There
But
you go.
You know, over the years, the college has been addressing this incrementally as they can even to the north of the campus by the dorms. There's been activity, and I think they've really done a good job just incrementally as they can. You know, houses become available and they purchased them, and that lot's in a perfect position for additional expansion. So it's an ongoing plan, I'm sure.
Further discussion or questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion on this item.
Well, I would move to approve the request to rezone the properties, make sure I'm in the right area, at 419 and 423 East 13th Avenue from R4 Residential Neighborhood Conservation District to PI Public and Institutional District, based on due consideration of the factors as outlined.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8D, consider bid tabulation and award for 325 East Avenue A.
Good morning again. This is the fourth of the Avenue A CDBG grant awards. And it's for property located at 325 East Avenue A. We have a photo this time, trying to up our public presentations here a bit. This property is in the project area, and the proposed scope of work would include some work on the windows, some electrical work, replacing the furnish, doing a repair to the porch, and doing some work on the exterior. I don't know if I mentioned in the past, but this grant really is for bringing houses up to minimum health and safety standards. It's not to do, major overhauls or renovations of these properties. We did open bids, and DH Home was the low bidder at $27,100. That is a little bit higher than what our average bid amount. Our average should be about $23,000, but SCED has recommended that we go ahead and award the bid in the hopes that some of the later bids will come in a little bit lower and it'll all average out. The city does have matching funds as part of this, including paying SCED to administer the grant, waiver of some of the building permit fees, and CDBG funds. Historic review is performed, but this is not in the historic district. So at this time, we're requesting that you award the bid and authorize the mayor to sign the contract.
Jen, I just wanted to comment, I appreciated having the scope of work or the list of work included with these items that we're looking at today.
Is there a motion on this item?
I move we accept the bid tabulation award for 325 East Avenue A.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
I'm sorry.
Soldner?
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8E, consider bid tabulation and award for 406 East Avenue A.
This is 406 East Avenue A. Here's a photo of the property. The minimum bid came in at $26,796 by DH Home, and the scope of work is very similar to the previous one, although there will be some bathroom repair here, some porch and door repair, and a little bit of interior work. This is a smaller property than the last one we looked at. And SCED and staff are recommending approval.
Questions or a motion?
I move we award the bid tabulation, approve the bid tabulation award at 406 East Avenue A.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8F, consider townhomes at Santa Fe Place, Phase 2.
This is the last planning item. This is a request for, it's actually a three-part request for allocation of $25,000 for the Townhomes at Santa Fe Place project, for the acceptance of a moderate income housing grant in the amount of $200,000 from the state, and also entering into an agreement with New Beginnings for administration of the moderate income housing grant. Just a little bit of background on this property. The top photo on the top shows what the property looked like before, and then the drawing on the bottom is kind of an artist's concept drawing of what it will look like when it's done, when it's completed. You can see that on the top, this property is fairly well blighted. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. Most of those houses have already been taken down. Phase 1 of the Townhomes at Santa Fe Place project was completed in 2014, and this is a photo of Phase 1. Oops, I don't know. Maybe that's all I have. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. My slides weren't advancing. Okay. This is a site plan showing where Phase 1 was located. Phase 2 is this top building here, and then the ones back here, totaling 8 units. These would all be moderate income regulated, and they are the units that the grant has been applied for. As far as financing for the project, the New Beginnings has a multitude of financing sources, including a loan from the Community Foundation, a proposed loan from First National Bank, funding from the city. Previously, the city authorized funding the project in an amount of $29,500, including $8,000 in permit waivers, building permit fee waivers. The applicant went to, once they received the grant award notification from the state for the $200,000 moderate income housing grant, went to the bank to get the loan for the rest of the project, and was told that they didn't have enough cash equity in the project. So that's the reason why we're coming back to ask you for an additional $25,000. There's actually a $50,000 gap for the project. We have contacted the state, and we're fairly hopeful that the state will award the remaining $25,000 to complete the project. I know I didn't really probably do that in the order you'd like, but if you have any questions, Shara Gonzalez with New Beginnings is here as well. It's a good project. We're hoping that she's able to complete it.
Well, this certainly is a great project, and I know collectively the New Beginnings organization and the community and the city have partnered in this, and I know it's been a trying project. But I do have a couple of questions here. As I was reading the memorandum of understanding and so on, there's just a couple of items that are referenced there. And one that caught my attention was the policy of this project as it relates to waiving the building permit fees. I know it's not a big number in the scheme of a $1.2 million project, but I'm just a little bit concerned about whether or not this would set a precedent. And perhaps maybe you can enlighten us on some other projects that building permit fees, but on the economic development side, I know I've been involved, as the city manager has, in terms of similar kinds of requests, as whether or not we open ourselves up to other requests that we simply will have to pick and choose, and to me, I think that's a danger point. So I don't want to slow the project down. It's a great project, and Shar, you've done a wonderful job of packaging this, but from a policy standpoint, this little $8,000 building, waiving the building permit fees, to me, I think needs some clarity.
Yeah, I'd be happy to begin addressing that. Yeah, and you are correct, Councilman. We've been very consistent over the years in not waiving building permit fees. We really have. In this case, that was the one area where it's either waive the building permit fees or give them $8,000 of cash. And so it's we could not waive building permit fees under the guise we're going to give you $8,000. It was a way to get cash into the project, and we've done it here. We've done it on the CDBG grants that we just approved. That was part of that whole program. I don't recall, did we do it on phase 1 of this?
No, as
We
far
did
as
not.
we can,
Okay.
as far as we're aware, these are the only 2 projects we've done this on.
So
Wasn't it on a rebate from reading your notes, that it was paid and then it was rebated back? Is that correct or not?
I don't recall that.
I don't
Yeah.
think
all right.
so.
All right.
But the point is it was either waive the building permit fees, we could inject that amount, because we knew what that was, generally based on our permit fee schedule, $8,000, or not waive building permit fees and give them, and say, okay, we'll write a check for $8,000. And so that was the guise that we did it under. I think we can be, I think we can justify it in future situations, obviously this was a grant, and we were trying to obtain $200,000 and, you know, with all the funding partners, the bank, and certainly understand the bank's, you know, debt to equity issues, and we still have that issue to address in this conversation yet today. So,
So from my understanding, typically when you're dealing with grant funding, there's a certain percentage that city needs to match either with in-kind or with cash.
Right.
So that's why we did the in-kind.
Yeah. In kind.
In both of these cases, the CDBG in this, the city is the grantee. So we're the, you know, we're the one receiving the funding. I wouldn't recommend that we waive permit fees for projects that we're not, you know, we're not involved at or we're not receiving the grant funding, because I don't think that's a good policy. I agree with you. But as John said, well, if we don't waive it, then we just essentially have to go look for $8,000 of cash and add it to the project. So it's a trade-off.
So the differentiating factor moving forward is just whether or not the city's the grantee.
Applicant.
Do you feel comfortable with that, John?
Yeah, again, whether or not we need a formal policy or some clarity going forward, that we don't encounter this in the future, or it's a general understanding. Is it necessarily a condition of the grant that the locals either provide cash or in-kind, and that this building permit fees is a requirement? Is that as
It doesn't have to be building permit fees. It just has to be cash of some sort.
Just has to be some form of match.
and at the onset, we thought, well, maybe that was going to be enough to you know, make this all happen.
Right.
And unfortunately, as we get through the process, there's that gap. And I mean, our policy right now is very clear. We don't waive building permit fees, and we've had issues. Well, we didn't waive it for the jail. We didn't waive it for the school projects, and which I think is really a good policy. And then on the other hand, here we're looking at it. But I think the difference between others has been that we are an applicant for a grant, and but I'm not going to sit here and say that there isn't going to be another issue that's going to come before you. And my recommendation would be to leave our policy as is, that we don't waive building permit fees unless we ask you to waive building permit fees. So, sorry, and I don't mean to jokingly say that, but you know, it's hard to see down the road what situations might come up. And in this case, you know, okay, we're not waiving building permit fees. Here's $8,000. So, you know, so, and I think it shows the state basically that this is a community partnered project. You know, not only us, the community foundation, the bank, New Beginnings, and the city are all working together to try to make this happen. And I think that goes a long way in making that grant real easy to approve up there. So.
Well, I can support that, and again, I just thought we ought to get it out on the table.
Yeah.
So there is some general consensus among the council and you, John, in terms of how we treat this in the future and why we're approaching it in this manner. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jan.
Kind of a follow-up to that a little bit, I guess, just a comment. Since we are the grantee, is that the right word? You know, I think that there is a distinct difference there because we're asking for the money. Excuse me. But I wanted to ask, what is our required match as the grantee?
Well, originally it was what was our total?
29.5 was what we were. I don't know that was a percentage. I wasn't involved with the grant when we applied, but usually the match is about anywhere from 10 to 20%. I'd have to calculate that. That's a little more than.
It's a little more than 10.
10.
Oh well, the 20,000 would be 10, but
I don't.
The 25,000 that we're looking at today is not a requirement as a match to seeking the grant, but rather to deal with the gap that exists.
That's correct.
Okay.
I think in general, the percentage isn't necessarily told to the applicants, but the higher match you provide, the greater probability you have of being a receiver.
I think that's exactly right.
And from what I understand, the project is leveraged to highly,
Right. The debt to equity ratio needs to be 1.2. And we were not at that 1.2.
It's been a puzzle putting this together.
Yes.
So.
Is there anything you could think of that would prevent, who is it, the KHRC from providing, I know we kind of put the cart before the horse, so to speak, but from granting the $25,000 match?
I've been in conversation with them last week and as late as Friday, and actually had a visit from the executive director, Dennis Mesa, in the office, and Janet put together a official letter. They needed that, just kind of why, explaining what the issue was, and they've got a group that meets every Wednesday, or they're meeting Wednesday to look at our request again. No guarantees, but feel very confident that they would authorize the additional $25,000 with the fact that the city stepped up with an additional 25, and I think they like the project.
And I think all of the cities' allocation is contingent upon the financing falling into place from all other sources.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is that,
Right.
from what I
Yeah.
remember?
So really, in today's action, we're looking for, approval of our additional 25,000 into the project.
John, where does that come from?
That was, we'll fund that probably out of the general fund / EOF fund,
The EOF fund?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, just,
Economic Opportunity Fund, which is
Growth.
our so-called economic development fund, but it's part of the general fund, so it is what it is. So, but
Okay.
essentially out of the general fund.
I know Shara's in the audience. I didn't know if you wanted to make any comments. You don't have to, but you're certainly welcome.
I just wanted to thank you for all, and thank the friendly staff for all of the support and help they've been in the last month or so in helping make this happen, because it's just been really difficult to put the financing package together. This kind of pulls it all together. So I just really wanted to say thanks.
Char, before you leave, I had a question. Can you explain to me the owner equity portion of the funding? $50,000?
That's the $50,000 that needed to come up in cash. That's why they called it owner equity. But you will see that in developers' fees, typically at 10%, that would have been $100,000, and we're only asking for $50,000. So that's our contribution to the project itself.
Further questions, discussion, or a motion on this item?
And we're doing one at a time, right? We're just looking at the 25,000 right now? I'd move we approve the additional $25,000 allocation for the townhomes at Santa Fe Place.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Dave Line?
yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho?
I did want to just mention that I do serve on the board of New Beginnings, but I do not stand to benefit personally from this, so I will go ahead and cast a vote of yes. Next item, please.
We have a second and third motion on the same.
Okay. Is there a motion on action F1?
I would move to approve the agreement with Kansas
F2.
Housing Resources Corporation, accepting a 2015 moderate income housing grant in the amount of $200,000 and authorizing the mayor to sign said agreement.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho?
Yes. Is there a motion on action F3?
I will move to approve an agreement with New Beginnings regarding shared administration and supervision of the 2015 KHRC MIH grant as presented by staff.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8G, consider contract with USD 308 for tennis court resurfacing.
Good morning, I'm Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. This item is for an agreement with the school district for the resurfacing of 4 of the 8 tennis courts at Fairgrounds Park. Just a little background, I was approached by Randy Norwood last fall. He wanted to amend our operating agreement to capture future capital improvements. After discussions with our city attorney, the Kansas cash basis law really prohibits that. We can't enter into agreements for CIP projects down the road that haven't gone through the budget process. So we've decided to take the approach, we'll just kind of go project by project. Because the school district is the primary user of those tennis courts, they've agreed to split the cost 50-50. So this agreement, or in this agreement, the city will bid out, and actually we are bidding out. We won't award the contract until, if the city council approves it and if the Board of Education approves it. But the city is bidding out the work, so we have 100% control of the product that's going to be put down, of all the installation process, since we are ultimately the owner of the property. Our estimates are about $8,000 to $10,000 per court, so that's why we've made the reimbursements not to exceed $40,000. I don't anticipate it will exceed $40,000. So these courts are really the only usable courts in our park system. We have additional courts at Rice Park and Elmdale. They're in really rough shape. The 8 courts at Fairgrounds are in okay shape. I guess they're still playable, but within a few years they won't be. So we're wanting to stay on top of this. But it is my recommendation to approve this agreement with the school district, and I really do thank them for the school district for stepping up. They were the ones that initiated this conversation. In our current CIP plan in 2017, I think there's $78,000 or $76,000 to resurface all of them. So that was the city's plan, was we were going to do it. But this will then change that to, hopefully we'll do one yet this year. And then in my requested budget that I've submitted to the city manager, I'll be submitting for $40,000 for 2016 to do the remaining 4 courts.
So the funding would come out of CIP?
For the remaining 4 courts in 2016.
Okay.
So the school district's going to do 4 this year. Actually, we're hoping to do, if everything's approved, we're hoping to begin construction yet this month, or resurfacing, I guess, of the 4 courts that the school districts are going to reimburse us for. Once the capital budget's approved for 2016, then we'll look at the other 4 courts. And I've made it clear to the school district that we cannot commit to those other 4 courts, that it will have to go through the budget process, and they're well aware of that. So.
Not related to the fairgrounds, but any plans or thoughts in regards to the other courts, tennis courts in town, Elmdale, Rice Park?
Not really. I've had one request for pickleball, which is a modified tennis and my thoughts is possibly down the road, if that becomes more popular here, if there's more demand for that, Elmdale might be a good site. At Rice Park, tennis has a very limited numbers. Those numbers are stable, but they're not growing, so it will at some point probably be repurposed. I don't have any plans off the top of my head.
Okay. Further questions or a motion?
And I will add, it wasn't in the memo, Board of Education will vote on this on May 11th, so we'll vote on it first, and then they will approve it. So.
Okay, I will move to approve the agreement with USD 308 for the resurfacing of 4 tennis courts at Fairgrounds Park as presented.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho?
Yes, next item, please.
Item 8H, consider Orchard Park Phase 3A base bid and alternate.
Good morning again. This is for the construction of Phase 3A. I believe we have some graphics I sent to Todd. If not, they should be in your packet. This is a roadway that extends from the existing parking lot to the south, and then creates a loop near the pond, and then comes back to the parking lot, to the existing parking lot. So really, it develops access points to the pond and also to the back half of the park. That's the base bid. It's primarily just paving, some electrical for lighting, some water utilities. That bid came in at $426,204. Our engineer's estimate was $450,000. The alternate item, the bid for it was $70,179. That is creates two fishing piers, or two piers to provide access to the pond, as well as a retaining wall, a concrete retaining wall that will actually be in the pond with a sidewalk above it. So it kind of creates a fishing dock. It's not a true dock because it doesn't float, but will have that feel and that appearance to it. That bid was about $20,000 higher than the engineer's estimate. The engineer was expecting about a $50,000 price on that alternate. When we opened bids, I talked to our engineer, and I really feel like he did not anticipate the cost very well of dewatering. Anytime you work in the water itself, there's a lot of cost of creating, either using sheet piling or something to create a temporary dam so you can construct that wall in the water. I think that's where he kind of missed the mark on that. So I do feel that the bid is a solid bid. I also want to point out there's not a bid tabulation for this because only one firm responded to the request, and APAC has done all the other work. Since they met or were below the engineer's estimate for the base bid, we still are confident in their bid.
I don't know how we get away from that pattern of one or two bidders.
Yeah. On all the large projects, I've been advertising them on our website, so there'll be a one-page document on our website, and then they can actually download the plans on Drexel. And Drexel, they have contractors all over the state and all over the region that look at it to try to combat it. I don't know. We do what we can. I mean, obviously, we'd love to see 5 or 6 folks bidding on this.
It's probably hard to be competitive if you're not in the direct area. Yeah.
And we, over the years, we've been pretty fortunate. We've had a lot of competitiveness on our street bids for the most part, which helps, I think. This project, even though that sounds like it's not a huge, there's a lot of mobilization involved. And, this time contractors get busy and they're looking at schedules and saying, we're not something we're interested in. So, but it helps, you're right, to get some competition.
Is there any discussion or a motion on this item?
Justin, I'm just curious, what are the future plans for Orchard Park? This is Phase 3A, I think it was called.
Phase 3B, which will be in 2016 in my requested budget, that will be the creation of 2 trails, so an outer loop trail and an inner loop trail, and also some open space ball fields, so kind of some unprogrammed space where you take a soccer ball and kick a soccer ball around or play frisbee or something like that. These won't be dedicated sports fields, but they'll be irrigated, nice turf areas. That's Phase 3B. Phase 4 is some parking lot, which is the remainder of the parking lot, and then 5 is the construction of the pavilion. In the master plan, the pavilion's the last phase. We've kind of rearranged them, but we'll build the pavilion, and then beyond that is when we get into
construction of an amphitheater and a labyrinth and some other thing. Lookout, there's 2 lookouts on 2 points. There's supposed to be sidewalks going out with a small patio area looking out over the park. So, you know, I think once this phase 3A is completed, well, really provides access to the entire park. You know, right now there's really only access to the playground area. Once we open the back of the park, I think you know, people will really start to envision what the park will be and the full scope of the park. So.
That'll be completed if approved this summer, or?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I haven't talked with APAC about timing wise. We have already begun with some of the water line work. So the road should be done, I'd say, by late summer at the latest. So.
Great.
Justin, how did the park equipment and so on come through the winter?
Great.
No issues, really?
No. Because it's a custom playground, we had to get a few pieces remanufactured. They were just, when we got them, when we opened them out of the box, they got damaged in shipping. They were good enough to put up. They're the shade structures on the main roof, or on the main play structure. Those have since been replaced. There's just a gap in one of the seams, but other than that, it has withheld a ton of use in the short time it's been there. So.
Were you worried about the misting dragon, John? Yeah. Winterized. I was worried about him too. Is he going to shoot out icicles or? In the winter? Is there a motion on this item? Item H.
I'd move to accept the base bid and alternate item for Orchard Park Phase 3A to Apex Shears for an amount not to exceed $496,384.65 and authorize the mayor to sign the construction contract.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Dave Light?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Hyros de Carvalho?
Yes. Next item, please. Home stretch.
Item 8I, consider contract with Fraternal Order of Police.
Good morning. I'm Merrill Dye, the Assistant City Manager, and I'm bringing to you the friendly agreement between the Fraternal Order of Police and the City of Hutchinson for 2016. This is a one-year agreement, and it just covers a couple of items that I'll share with you. For 2016, the city proposed making wage scale adjustments for the covered positions of police officer and police sergeant to make those wages more competitive with the market that we are in. And for the police officer position, we proposed adding 3 new steps at the top of the scale. And for the police sergeant position, removing the 3 bottom steps of the scale and adding 1 at the top in order to avoid compression between the ranks. Also, this agreement calls for a merit pay increase for those employees who are eligible on their anniversary date in 2016. This contract also provides that the bereavement leave that has been a part of the sick leave policy or provisions in the contract kind of be lifted out and extracted and made a separate benefit so that when employees are taking leave for bereavement, that they're not having to use sick leave for that purpose. It essentially provides that benefit without charging against the sick leave bank. And if just for your information, bereavement leave is 40 hours for a spouse, a child, a sibling, parent or parent-in-law, and 24 hours for grandparents, grandchildren, probably forgetting the other family members here. Grandparents, grandchildren, sister or brother-in-law, son or daughter-in-law. And then also the contract provides just some cleanup to the provisions relating to rules and regulations, stating basically that the employer will provide electronic copies of all the pertinent rules and regulations to the members of the FOP, and any changes as soon as possible. So with that, staff is recommending that the council adopt the FOP contract for 2016. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Are the contracts normally a year? Is that usual?
Most recently, yes. Under state statute, contracts can be multi-year up to 3 years. It's been a number of years since we've had 3-year or multiple year contracts.
From my understanding, even when there are multiple years, you have openers every year. So you could still, so if you had a 3-year contract, you'd still have, either side would have the ability to.
Right.
So in essence, you're really only ever having a 1-year contract, in a sense.
In the past, when we've had multi-year contracts, we've had reopeners just on wages and health insurance, and it makes it a little bit difficult when you don't have much to work with in terms of negotiating, placing items on the table. It's a give and take process. And we've done very well, I think, with the 1-year contracts. And this is really a first in any of our memory, being able to bring a contract to the council in the month of May. We often go past that date, so we're proud that we're able to bring it to you in May.
I'm pleased to hear that we're doing what we can to stay competitive. You certainly can't put a price on what our officers do, so. Entertain a motion on this item.
I move to approve the FOP contract for 2016, because it's also the shortest line. I was waiting for this one the whole time.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Tyrus de Carvalho?
Yes, next item, please.
Item 9, report of city officials.
All right, we will start with you, Nancy.
Sorry, Justin left. Went out to the Arbor Day activity at Orchard Park, and kids were very involved. Park staff was there. Bob's people from his business were there, and the kids planted trees and shrubs and flowers, and it looked very nice, and it went very well.
That's great. I'm glad you're able to make that.
It was wet and
Wet.
cold.
A little windy and wet.
Windy and wet, yes.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
Steve, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
What about you, Dave?
Just hoping for good weather for some of the upcoming events, the various proclamations we had, and hopefully they'll be well attended as well.
John?
No, nothing this morning.
I do have one item, and I will try to be concise, but I should have written down what I wanted to say, so please bear with me. With the council's blessing, I'd like to announce the creation of a special task force to begin addressing the impact that drug abuse has had on our community. Hutch is not unlike a lot of other communities across Kansas and across the country that have been dealing with some of these issues unsuccessfully. And many feel like it is a law enforcement issue that affects only a minority of people in our community, but it's actually draining Hutchinson of millions of dollars of resources and human capital every year. So over the past, millions of dollars every year. Over the past several weeks, I've been speaking with area stakeholders, including many employers who have expressed frustration to me at their inability to hire and retain people because of drug abuse. So it is a workforce development issue that we need to get our hands wrapped around if we have any hope of growing. Also, when the county health rankings came down last month and Reno County was below standard on several of those items, it became apparent that drug abuse is behind some of those issues. So it is a public health issue. And of course, it is a public safety and law enforcement issue. If you look at our property crime being one of the highest in the state of Kansas, the fact that our hand was forced to approve the building of a multi-million-dollar jail to house more people, and the fact that our prison is overcrowded, which, after speaking with correctional facility and correctional professionals, they've indicated that the drug abuse problem is highly contributing to those issues. I wanted to mention there will be no cost to the city of holding this task force, except for the time of one staff member to take minutes for the meetings that John has so graciously agreed to. The meetings will take place the fourth Thursday of every month from 4 to 5:30 here at City Hall. Stakeholders include a few people from the business community, including the chamber, from the medical community, including Reno County Health Department and Hutchinson Regional, from the correctional community, including law enforcement, the prison and community corrections, and a variety of community volunteers. However, all the meetings will be open, and the public is encouraged to provide any input to me at jadep@hutchgov.com, or please attend the meetings. We'd like to get a lot of voices in on this discussion. However, the meetings will be structured with an agenda so we can make the best use of our time. The goal is not to just talk about this problem. The goal is to develop action items, hopefully at the policy level, not just at the city, but community-wide, that can begin to chip away at this. And I'm not real certain how successful it's going to be, but I'd like to get a few ideas that we could maybe try, because ignoring it has been super ineffective. So if I entertain any questions about it after the meeting or now, but I just wanted to make you all aware of it, and hope that you'll support this effort.
Sounds good.
With that, John, do you have any comments?
Mine aren't as exciting as yours, but.
That's not very
probably
exciting,
not. No.
actually.
Well, Main Street reconstruction, we were set to actually start towards the latter part of May and June, and now the contractors indicated they'd like to start next Monday, which is good. And they'll be starting with some water line work on the 23rd Street area, and then up north on 30th we'll start the actual street work. So that project will be underway. Michael Kramer, city engineer, set out information to all the property owners so they know kind of what's all happening, and it will be there'll be a lot of disruption up there for several months. So hopefully people will get used to that. So
And we do have a city update system, right?
we do,
Or-
yeah. So.
Well, I'm glad to hear it's getting started
Yeah.
sooner.
The other thing is there's a sports arena project. I sent out in the weekly report. We did have our first building committee meeting, and we've got the request for qualifications on the street now for the construction management at risk delivery process. I think they're due back in on May 18th, and at that point we'll have a working committee, some representatives off the building committee, city staff, HCC staff, to basically review all of those, rate them, and recommend a short list for interviews by the building committee, which I think we're scheduled for June 4th, I believe, is in that time frame. So theoretically, if the schedule goes right, we would bring that proposed contract to the city council on the June 16th council meeting. So we're going to move pretty quick on that. So the last thing I had was we talked about an airport tour, and I sent out some dates and got different responses back. And I think we probably just need to set something on May 21st or 22nd. 22nd's a Friday. That is the start of Memorial Day weekend. Thursdays is the 21st. And I'm thinking maybe you want to do it of a morning when it's hopefully cooler. And I told Peter we ought to just set a date, and if 3 people can make it, great. If 2 can, fine. And if 5 can, great. So any looking at calendars, and if you can't tell me now, you can tell me later, and we'll get something set up for you there. But they really like, the airport advisory board would really like to just kind of have you guys come out, show you around a little bit, and I think it'd be good too for you to see kind of what what we have out there. So with that, that's all I have. And if we find there's only one person can do it, we'll move it to another date. So don't worry about it. But we'll talk off afterwards. So.
John, how long do we need to recess into executive
I'm thinking,
session?
no, I told Peter no more than 2 hours, I think.
Oh, no, I meant executive session.
Oh,
for the
executive
next item.
session, okay.
Please don't tell me 2 hours.
Yeah, motion to executive session until 12:30 then, yeah. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, I'll make the motion to adjourn to executive session to last no longer than 12:30.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Deckent,
Yes.
Inskeep,
Yes.
Dave Light.
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Pyrus Carvalho.
Yes, next item, adjournment? Do we need a motion to
No,
adjourn? No, we
you
do that after executive session?
executive
Okay.
session.
I was thinking a break would be good. We are gonna take a break, that's right.